another episode of Success EQ PR. I'm Kritika, your host, and today we have a really interesting topic planned for you guys. We'll dive deep into how expansions can be a stepping stone for drive, growth, and revenue for any organization. Our guest today is Abhishek. He's a seasoned customer success and business leader with over a decade of experience in identifying and managing customer needs and delivering digital and omni-channel engagement across the globe. So, Abhishek, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kritika. It's a pleasure to be a part of this awesome event.
And to start off, could you please just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and your journey in customer success so far?
So, Kritika, I come with an experience of close to a decade and a half in terms of managing and growing the existing customer base. I'm presently taking care of customer success at Kapture CX. Prior to my journey at Kapture CX, I was leading customer success and account management initiatives at Yellow.ai. And that's where I was there for around close to 4 years. Prior to that, I've been a part of companies like Capillary, Netcore Unboxed, Jaro Education, and others. So yes, and my journey for customer success actually started at Capillary, where I started engaging with a lot of existing customers. In fact, the first customer that I started interacting was with Tommy Hilfiger India. And slowly and gradually, I started, being a part of multiple customer success initiatives. Since I started leading teams across different geographies for customer success, I mean, this is my sweet spot, and it's a pleasure to be a part of the customer success journey.
Yeah, I also remember my first customer. It was Marks and Spencer. You always remember your first customer. So the topic that I chose today, when I was talking to you, I was reading a lot about expansion, and that's why I wanted to talk to someone who has been there, done that it many times, and led teams and nurture teams to do this, right? So there's a statistic which is thrown around a lot that it costs more than 5x to acquire a new customer than to retain a current customer. But if you will extrapolate this data, a lot of people say that it is sometimes 20x more expensive to get a new customer. But when you see successful companies that the top earning SaaS companies, there's one study which says that the highest performing SaaS companies get more than 60% of their MRR from expansion revenue. Right, so expansion has become really, really important for driving that long-term growth for any company. And I wanted to know your experience and how the role of revenue has changed in customer success over the last decade in your experience.
So Kritika, talking a little about how customer success has actually changed over the period of time. It started off initially as a cost center, right? And the journey has moved a far, long way towards a revenue center all put together. Initially, customer success started as an expansion to support, or say an extended wing to support. From there, the entire movement slowly and gradually shifted, and now it is more of a proactive and a strategic view that we have. So if you see, when it comes to an existing customer, it is not about selling a particular product. It is more about making sure that you're customer centric and you're delivering excellence with the help of a solution approach, where you're making sure that you are communicating that particular value, and slowly and gradually making sure that the customer is also finding out the value. At the same time, the business is also finding the value. Now it is moved towards a mutual beneficial cooperation,
Right.
where at the end of the day, now it is just not about managing those existing customers. There is a positive impact that customer success is actually delivering, both in terms of bottom line and also the NRR, that's your net recurring revenue. Like you rightly mentioned, acquiring a customer is actually very difficult, right? But once you've acquired and you lose that customer, then it actually creates a bigger dent. That's
Yeah.
something that people don't talk about, right?
Right.
I feel that customer success is doing a lot of impact, both in terms of retention and expansion. At the end of the day, for a company, NRR is one key indicator to ensure that the existing customers are finding that particular value. At the same time, they are also buying additional products or services from you, right? So that's something which has shifted. In fact, when it started, it was just an extension of in support. But now, if you see, there are so many details associated with managing your existing customers. Because see, I somewhere feel existing customer isn't gold mine, right?
Right.
So if you make sure that you manage your existing customer base, then you realize that things are going to be more seamless, things are going to be more productive. There is going to be a positive word of mouth, which in turn is going to help you acquire more and more logos, right? Because when a customer talks, then you realize that, you know what, this is something which people are using and they have found that particular impact. And then slowly and gradually there is a scale. And apart from that, when you get into the customer advocacy bit of it, community building bit of it, which is heavily focused on existing customers, then you realize that the strength of the product actually comes out really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, now we are realizing it more when, the economies are slow, budgets are cut, especially that post-COVID world. People are not ready to invest. In fact, they are cutting up budgets. So it becomes extremely important for customer success team. And they are under so much pressure also to do these kind of expansions so that it can contribute um, ensure the renewal, do the expansion so that it can contribute in the revenue cycle for the company.
Absolutely.
So, I wanted to ask from you that, we are focusing, customer success teams are focusing on expansion across the globe, no matter which company you are in right now. So, how should we balance driving revenue through upgrades while maintaining that customer satisfaction and not hampering that, not by pushing ourselves or not being salesy? Uh,
Yes. So Kritika, I strongly believe that retention is a stepping stone of any expansion, right? So focus on focus on your retention. When you're focusing on your retention, you'll realize that slowly and gradually you are getting to understand about multiple other parameters associated with retention, which will in turn help you in terms of getting that balance. When you focus on the retention bit of it, then you'll slowly and gradually understand that experience matters, right? So a positive experience when you give it to your existing customer, then you'll realize that they would want to go ahead and say buy a lot of products and services from you, because that impact is something which you've created. Focus on the feedback, right? When your customer tells you about something, make sure that you're constantly listening. If you listen
mhm.
to your customer, then you realize that you are not only retaining your customer, but at the same time understanding what are those additional problems that they are facing, for which your product
Right,
can be a solution, right? So that's also something which you need to focus on. Then make sure that you're having an approach which is consultative in nature, right? Consult. Right? Do not sell products, because I feel selling products is something which I would not even recommend for a sales guy. Try and consult. You'll realize that you are acting as an advisor for your customer. Right? So that's something which is very important. And make sure that retention is the key, right? Have that retention orientation. Whatever is the existing products and services that your customer is actually using, make sure that you're delivering that value, right?
right.
That's something which helps you create that positive impact. Make sure that your communication that you're doing is proactive. Do not be very reactive in nature. Then you'll realize that, you know what, this is something which is making an impact. Customer would start feeling that, right? And last but not the least, make sure that you are progressing towards a particular direction, right? Make that change. If you feel that, in your existing plan there are certain things which are not working right, make sure that you track it and make those necessary alterations, which would
Right.
get you that positive impact altogether.
Yeah, 100%. In the on your communication point, I'll just add that sometimes you also have to make them understand that, hey, this is working out for you and how it has helped you in your day-to-day job. Because once you start talking in the term that how it is making your life easy, then it becomes really easy for you to go for that expansion, or they can think about how others can probably, how other problems can be solved through this product that you're selling. So it will become very natural um, in that journey, right?
Okay.
And like in your experience, when do you think that uh, that the customer is ready for an upgrade? What are the some key indicators that CSM should look for? um,
Okay. So, Kritika, uh, the first, I mean, some of the major things which I normally focus on in terms of tracking, let it be expansion or retention. First is I want to make sure that the customer health is correct, right?
right.
Uh, so when I talk about health, that's where making sure that your NPS and CSATs are in place, the number of support tickets are intact. This the status of the integration also plays a vital role. When I tell status of integration, if your primary contract is still not executed, or say more from a delivery standpoint, then it becomes difficult for any sort of an expansion to kick in, right? Make sure that you're delivering any products or services that you have sold it to your existing customer, and at the same time have a positive tracking on the consumption bit of it. When I talk about consumption, so at the end of the day, if a customer is using your existing products and services, then automatically you can see that there could be a lot of avenues where your upsells could come into play very easily, right? At the same time, your cross sells can be found out just by the trends of your consumption, right? So your customer health in total is going to be very important in terms
Hmm.
of tracking and understanding your expansion journey. At the same time, you need to focus on your PAR. When I tell PAR, that's your potential annual recurring revenue that could come from your existing customer. So how do you understand that, right? A PAR could be understood, one, by understanding your existing customer health, but apart from that, understand what is the total addressable market within the existing customer, right? Make sure that you're doing an account plan, right? Where
Hmm.
you understand that, say, take for an example, there are 10 different product lines that a company is offering. As of now, the customer is using only two products out of it. There are 8 more products, but are those 8 product lines really relevant for that particular
Correct.
customer, right? Do not oversell things there in an existing customer. You'll end up in a mess rather than making it a success. So make sure that you're actually communicating that particular value. So that's something which is important. At the same time, also try and understand the stance of the customer in the particular market, right? Do they really have the appetite to buy the product and services?
Hmm.
And another important thing which is normally ignored is your senior leadership connects within that particular company, right? At the end of the day, uh, I mean, if there are two similar products and services, right, that a customer is evaluating, and if you see that the strength and the engagement with the existing customer is in existing customer and partner is very strong, then the customer would always want to go ahead and engage with a stronger partnership rather than
Right.
a place where they need to explore new
Hmm.
things. So these are certain important vital things which needs to be kept in mind when you're planning things.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen that sponsor connect or leadership connect is extremely important, and it also helps you connect to the leader of other department, because when you are connected to the other department leader, it becomes really easy for account management team or customer success team also to just go there and try to show the product, demo the product, show the value, and so on and so forth. So 100% agree. Really good point that go via the leadership route, or take that also into consideration.
So, I mean, so Kritika, I'll tell you, across my roles in different organizations, this is something which I've constantly preached. And I don't have one example. In fact, I have so many examples. Probably I'll not quote the name of the customers, but I mean, telling you, an example of a customer where, say, we started with, say, approximately around, say, $10,000 in the of ARR in the initial part of the contract, right? One of a big FMCG brand. Then later on, the same within by the end of the year, the same contract value went to close to around $1 million, right? But what did we do, right? We wanted to make sure that we retain that particular customer, right? And make sure that we try to decode all their problems that they are facing. Then we went back with a solution based approach, right? Telling that, hey, what, these are certain things that we can do well for you, and this is the derived ROI that you can get. And we just mentioned that, hey, what, we are going to be a partner who's going to be standing by your side when you're facing any sort of a problem. And then we realized slowly and gradually by the end of the year, we actually became a leader in that particular account. I mean, the journey of, say, $10,000 to around $1 million was all there in 1 year. And why this is important is also something which I want to emphasize. Typically, we are in a very competitive market, right? So when we are in a very competitive market, so either you are going to be a part of the customer ecosystem, or there is going to be your competitor who's going to be a part of the ecosystem. So if you
Right.
do not focus on making sure that there is value derived by your customer, and you are not giving a lot of focus on those details, then you realize that, hey, what, probably this partnership is not working. Let me evaluate another vendor who can do it better. And when your competitor comes into the same account, he would probably eat, say, 50 or 60% of your share. At the end of the day, it results in a downgrade, right? So you need to make sure that the retention is intact, which is followed by an expansion. Because without retention, there is no expansion. But at the same time, if you're not communicating that value to your customer, when I tell value, it is both in terms of, say, the value that they are deriving from the existing services that they're using. At the same time, tell them about all the new product lines that's coming, and don't tell about products. Tell about, hey, what, these are certain potential problems that I notice, and this is the solution for your problem. That's what would make a positive impact. And I mean, stop selling products, it does not work. And that's something which I have kept emphasizing throughout my career, and that's something which I would stand by even now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And as you mentioned, I feel like in my career also, I've seen the same thing that if you will understand what they are trying to tell you, their problems, just I know it's since CSM handles so many accounts, it's difficult for us also to be in every person's shoes and understand what they are talking about, because they can be in different role, different industry. But unfortunately, that's our job. So just we have to be in that shoes and understand what kind of problems they can face. So one more thing that I always used to tell my team is go read about the JD of that person. That also help that will definitely help you understand what they are supposed to do, and maybe then you can tell them that, hey, maybe if you're facing this problem, if that can be solved with your application. So that could be also one way of being really confident as a CSM also when you're pitching it or when you are doing solutioning with them, with the customer. So yeah, great point.
And apart
Great.
from, I mean, you just mentioned about this absolutely amazing point. See, the value is derived differently by different people and different roles. The way I engage with the head of marketing is going to be far different from the way I engage with a head of sales versus head of
Absolutely.
technology, say versus head of DevOps. So you will need to understand that deriving of value varies on the basis of different roles and different departments. Right? You can't have the same way of communicating value across different teams. So that's going to
Right.
be really important.
In my first job when I was working with a company called Ruger. So this application was actually sold to customer and then to one department or to the leadership. And then it was CSM's job to go and train the people, guide them on how they can use and basically solution from them for them, sit with them. So I used to sit with the head HR, design the whole process. It was a digital transformation kind of a project. So everything which you're doing on pen and paper or probably Excel or manually, it used to bring everything together and put like a process in there. So one thing which I felt was really important that you train. Let's say you're working with one person, you have to ensure that your champion is championing. He's actually going and talking to other people about this amazing thing which is solving his problem, and that can only happen if you are actually solving the problem. That's true. So you have to focus on actually solving the customer's problem, and then only you can build that trust of they are coming back and telling you about more problems that you can solve with the existing feature set or with the any other feature set that they can buy from you or any other services that they can buy from you. So definitely focus on problem solving. And it one more thing, it also helped me in one way that I used to go and meet these customers. So probably establishing that connect, how you mentioned, right? Having that sort of relationship also really matters. I feel like in both, be it retention or be it expansion. Upsell or cross sell. And just when I used to go out, let's say if I'm in their office and I'm going out with them just for a coffee or something in their building, in their office, and something called, that water cooler conversation or that lift conversation where people are just telling them about, hey, I did this and this application really helped me out. So my champion used to do that. And without me telling her to do that. So that was like an aha moment for me that, oh, this is something that is making the most impact. So, but later on, I learned and I started training my champions to go and talk in like an informal setting. It's difficult, but CSMs can, depending on the rapport that they have, they can definitely start pushing the champions also in this direction.
Yeah.
That they are, actually going out and talking about your product.
In fact, one important point that I missed mentioning in my previous question was, make sure that you are meeting a lot of customers. Right?
Mhm.
When you meet a lot of customers, then you'll realize that there is a positive impact that you're creating. Right? If you and there is no alternative to FaceTime. You need to make sure that your FaceTime is increased. Once your FaceTime is increased, then you'll realize that the value is automatically delivered. In fact, in the last year, I approximately met around 120 different customers face to face across different geographies. I wanted to make sure about one thing, that I am there, the customer's doorstep when they feel that they want my support, and at the same time, when I wanted their support in terms of
Hmm.
expense. So you'll realize that FaceTime and say basically your face-to-face meetings will help you get that additional edge as compared to others.
Right. Yeah. 100%. And 120 customers are like too much. All right. So I want to know, as a leader, how do you train your CS team to, spot and act on revenue opportunities without compromising their primary role?
So first and foremost is make sure that you are adopting a consultative approach all put together. When you're adopting within consultative approach, make sure that first step, you need to do your homework. Make sure that you are having your account planning and analysis, where you get into all the details of the existing account structure versus what sort of a value is delivered, their organizational structure, what could be the potential associated with that particular account versus the open points. Do a SWOT analysis with your existing customer. Then you'll realize that that is something which becomes your stepping stone. Then get to the second step of identifying all your cross-sells and upsells. What could be those possibilities all put together? Then make sure that you're tailoring that particular solution, uh, and communicating a value for all those identified problems. Right? When you do that, then that is something which actually delivers value. Apart from that, make sure that you addressing all the objections that the customer is actually raising, because if you don't address all those objections, and you assume that what, this is something, it's okay to not address those objections, then that is a difficult position, because probably the customer would not again ask you that particular question, but later on, your competitor might be answering these particular questions. So make sure that you're handling all those objections right. If you do not know an answer for that, tell that, what, I don't know, let me check and come back to you, and make sure that you're coming back to the customer with a response. Track those open items, which helps you in terms of delivering value. Make sure that you're demonstrating that ROI associated with the solution. When you're demonstrating that positive ROI, then you realize that the engagement becomes more seamless. Uh,
Mm.
and apart from that, your engagement needs to be heavily focused on experience. When you are focusing on experience, let it be any product or solution, focus on the experience that you're delivering to your existing customer. That creates an impact. And be open for feedbacks. Take the feedback from your customer, and then you'll realize that, hey, what, this is something which makes sense, probably we need to do this more often, right? And then that's something which automatically delivers value.
Right. But I wanted to know, like, do you have like a training program for them, or do you ensure that at every step of the things that you mentioned are mostly part of the KPIs. So you try to add these things and ensure that these things are taken care of, or it's like, do you have like best practices session or have like a training program so that they know how to do it? I was coming from that mindset actually.
So, one is, we get into all these details, but apart from that, what I majorly focus on is making sure that the account plans, when you do account plans, get into all the details. Okay? When you're doing those details, then automatically that helps. Second, understand
Okay.
a lot about product, right? Because each and every product is different, and each and every product has a different perceived value associated with it, right?
Right.
Make sure that you're understanding it first. Because if you don't understand and you're not convinced about it, then you will never be able to convince your customer. Make sure that that's done. And apart from that, understand about the potential that your product is having, apart from the ones that is already there as a part of the as a part of the offerings. Understand about the product roadmap that you have. So when you understand about all these details, you can tell it to your customer, hey, what, this is where we stand as of now, this is something which you've not used, and this is something which is a part of my roadmap. And you can net that entire story, but first you need to be educated about it. Your training program would be heavily focused on broad broad areas of understanding product. Second, planning your existing customer engagement. When I tell engagement, so broadly, your engagement, again, I divide it under three headers: either a weekly or a bi-weekly engagement, then your monthly business reviews, through your quarterly business reviews. Engagement should have different format. And apart from that, make sure that your handoffs are right. When your handoffs are right, then you'll realize that your information is collected rightly. Make best use of your CRM, right? Because when you're making best use of your CRM, you will understand about all the consumption trends versus your customer success metrics trend. How do you read it? How do you get your insights? And once you get these insights, how are you actually communicating that particular insights and the value associated with it via your business reviews? You'll realize that when you get into all these details, then it automatically helps you. But last but not the least, focus on the process. Process, when I tell process, both internally and externally. When I tell about internal, understand that, who does the sale, who's engaged in that particular sale. After that, what are the steps? How much time does your implementation team take? what is the tact that your support teams have. Understand the entire process, and at the same time, understand uh, your engagement with your other tech teams, right? Other tech dependencies, because when there is a problem, you need to actually engage with them, right? To make sure that this is something which is resolved. So understand this entire process all put together, which is going to be helpful. At the same time, why I emphasize on understanding the process even from the customer's standpoint, because there could be a possibility that there's a person who's just an influencer, then there's a decision maker, then apart from that there's a different signing authority all put together, there could be a different procurement process all put together. Understand the process at both the ends, which
Right. Right.
you knit the entire story all put together. But in the training, get into all these details of the ones that I just mentioned.
Got it. So, yeah, definitely design a holistic training kind of approach, or simply just if, if you don't want to call it training, probably you can have like a best practice session where different team members can also share their experience. How did they work on particular upgrade or expansion story, so that other team members can also learn. And these can be like all the details that that you mentioned can be part of your account planning, can be part of basically all the things that you need to do before thinking about any sort of expansion,
Correct.
right?
In short, it's a three P, where you do planning, you focus on process, and you focus on the product itself. And at
Mm,
the end of the day, these three P's will help you in terms of getting that positive outcome that you're looking at, which is your NRR.
yeah, absolutely. So we talked about the strategies, how CSMs, how you can train the CSM. I also want to know what are some of the metrics that you track uh, for the success of this revenue-driven upgrade initiatives.
Okay. I mean, earlier I talked about the customer health and the power bit of it, right? So apart from that, what are the other important things? I keep emphasizing a lot on NRR. So that's one key metrics that you need to focus on. Make sure that you're also focusing on the customer lifetime value. Uh, at the same time, the expansion rate, the rate at which you're doing all those expansion, the number of cross
Mm,
sells and upsells that you're doing, but not compromising on the churn. So focus on your churn rates. It should not be that you're doing a lot of expansion but losing all the existing engagement that you already have. Right, the customer health score is something which I emphasize on, and your customer retention rate. Right, so all these are certain key metrics that I focus on to make sure that the revenue is driven rightly.
and not be so basically it can be post revenue generation. What about pre-revenue generation? Do you also keep number of leads generated or number of opportunities created also as part of the KPI or as a metric that you track?
Uh, yes, to an extent, yes. Uh, because at the end of the day, if you're not generating opportunities, one fine day you're not going to go ahead and close it. Right?
Correct.
You need to make sure that you're actually keeping a close track on the number of opportunity, but also on the basis of I mean, another important thing is the number of meetings and the business reviews that you're doing. Okay, because if you are doing a lot of business reviews and if you're having a lot of face time with your customer, then automatically these all things will drill down. So make sure that you're talking with your customer rightly, and I feel then the other metrics can be easily achieved.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I asked that question, because a lot of times it's very much like there's an account management team and it's their responsibility to close that expansion or upsell or cross sell opportunities, right? So the CSM is there just to, if someone wants a new thing, a new feature, or wants to expand, or if I myself have asked them to do this and they agree, so my responsibility will end once I will end there and I have to go and tell people. So
Correct.
directly it can be, if the lead or the opportunity is getting converted or not, it's not kind of my responsibility there. So that's
Correct.
why I was wondering if if you, for your CSMs, if you track how many leads or opportunities they have generated as part of
Absolutely.
their KPI.
I'll tell you one thing, which has actually changed, over the period of time in terms of customer success is the emphasis on, say, customer-centric approach is actually being the most important thing for now. But at the same time, your movement from, say, a cost center to a revenue center is also happen at the same time. One
Right.
thing which actually varies from organization to organization is the ratio of your expansion. There could be a possibility that an organization has a ratio of, say, 10% in terms of expansion versus, say, a 50% in your expansion, in your key metrics. But remember one thing: if the customer is not expanding, or say if you're not communicating all these value to your customer, then they're probably doing a window shopping somewhere else, right?
Right.
So just to even retain your customer, you need to have these all communication uh, uh, with your customer, which will help you in getting that impact. Do do those communications, so automatically you'll realize that there are leads generated, then leads converting into opportunity, then opportunities getting converted into closures. That will happen. But focus on, that's the reason I tell, hey, not focus on your retention. But in the present day, because of this competitive market,
Right.
to make sure that the retention is all in place, you need to make sure that you're communicating value, both by telling all the positive impact that you're doing with that particular existing customer, at the same time telling them about all the products and services which could help them solve that particular problems, right? So you need to make sure that both these things are communicated.
Got it. So I want to ask you this last question, and then we'll move toward the conclusion of the session. Um, you have nurtured so many CS professionals, so many CS team now. So, what are some of the challenges do you see that these new CSM or any, in fact, trained and experienced CSM also they face while working towards certain expansion or while trying to drive revenue through upgrades?
Sorry. See, first and foremost point which I've noticed is people are scared to communicate. When I tell
Mm.
scared to communicate, there is always a constant thought process that CSMs have. Hey, you know what? Why should I sell? Right? I probably am not good at it, but make an attempt to at least communicate that value. Right? When you're having
Right.
that communication in place, you'll realize that, hey, you know what? This is actually a consultative approach rather than just selling. That's one. Second, I've seen many CSMs not being very proactive in terms of communication. Then you will realize that you are not having that edge as compared to support, right? Then otherwise, it is more inclined towards support of just a reactive approach altogether. Make sure that you're having that proactive communication, and focus on your timely renewals. Many of them I've noticed that, hey, you know what, that's okay. Customer will automatically renew. I mean, that's something which needs to be your key focus area. If you're not focusing on your renewals, how is the expansion even going to come, right? Tracking the consumptions. I've seen at least 60% of folks do not track the consumption really, really. Make sure that you are tracking the consumption, right? Uh, get the feedback from your customer and then come and internally inform all the stakeholders, because that's when the improvement can happen. Otherwise, it is just about listening to all the talks that your customer talks and cribs that your customer does, and then you're just making sure that at that point of time he's pacified, but later on it creates a big dent. Focusing on collaboration internally is also something which is very important and vital. If you're not focusing on that, then that actually does not help you. And most of them I've seen have completely removed the the competitor angle. Many of them do not feel that, hey, you know what, I'm the sole rider there in the account.
Yeah, we
So
are the
I'm not
best.
be the best. First of all, stop focusing on you being the best, because the market is really, really competitive. Focus on how you can make your champion the best in his organization. Then you'll realize that things are going to be more impactful. Last but not the least, focusing on account planning. People don't plan. people feel that, you know what, I'll go in the flow and then things would be all fine. Focus on that plan. When you plan, your retention and expansion both are taken care.
I love that point of when you mentioning that, make your champion the best or make him shine. I feel like that's the most important thing that you have to do as a CSM. You have to ensure that you're solving his problem, you're making him a hero. One thing I also want to add with a bunch of points that you have added, and you can tell me if you have seen this or not, is a lot of time CSMs, like as you mentioned, they're just pacifying the situation. So I see them struggle to find that right balance of where to talk about what other problems we can solve when we are firefighting already and we are not able to solve this problem, this existing problem. And the customers also, sometimes they also don't entertain hate, and they'll just tell you, depending on what kind of person they are, they'll just tell you, hey, first you solve this problem, and then we'll think about all the other five things that you can do. So I have also seen people, CSMs, definitely struggling to find that right moment if there are continuous firefighting, or they feel like things are not going right. So getting that intuition or finding the right opportunity is something that also you have to learn over time. I feel like uh, I don't know how to train them on this, but I feel like people have to learn this over time.
So, Kritika, I feel the most important thing is be active listener. At the same time, do not compromise on the empathy to your customer.
Yeah,
Correct. So you need to have a balance between both these things. If you're not
right,
having a balance between both these things, you would not be able to communicate that value, at the same time ask for that opportunity, right? So you need to make sure that you are engaged with your customer rightly. At the same time, you're listening to all the grips that they have, right? List down all the problems. Make sure that you negotiate with your customer, telling that, hey, you know what, yes, I understand these are your key problem areas. I'll work with you in terms of making sure that these problems are resolved. And
right,
simultaneously we'll also start having a discussion on this, right? After say a couple of days, when I show you a positive impact or tracking of things getting resolved, then you have that follow-up discussion, right? So here you have set the stage. Then following that, you've shown progress in terms of issues. At the same time, you're also not asking for expansion, rather than say that it is more about recommending the right solution with the desired ROI and impact that would be created just with those additional products and services. So I feel
right.
that's something which is important. And stop being scared. Customers
Yeah,
are going to eat you.
yeah, 100%. Um, they have to be stopped being scared, and yeah, it's going to. I feel like it's going to come with time, but still start getting, just start talking and initiate those conversations, basically. But so, thank you so much, Abhishek. It was great talking to you, and thank you so much for sharing such insights and your experiences with us today. Um, your expertise, the examples that you shared, where driving revenue through customer success while maintaining customer satisfaction was truly, truly valuable. So, yeah, thank you so much for being part of our show today.
Thanks a lot, Kritika. Pleasure was entirely mine. I had a great time, and yes, a lot of insights. Thanks for sharing your experience. Uh, it was great and insightful as well.